Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of SoTellUs Time. We've got a really good episode for you guys today. We are nearing the end of February, which is crazy. I mean, I can't believe it. We are just rocking and rolling. Before you know it, the first quarter of the year is going to be over and it's going to be like, oh my gosh. And then guess what? The second quarter is going to be over and it's like, oh my gosh, it's summertime. And then, it's going to be the end of the year. And then, oh man, trust me, as you guys all know, time flies. So let's stay focused and let's focus on the things that are most important. So today we've got a really good one. We're talking about mastering delegation. See, we want to be able to delegate efficiently without losing control, because I think that's the biggest part of delegation is that we're like, oh, well, I don't know. Are they going to do as good a job as I do? Or, like, are they going to take care of the customers? Are they going to get this done the right way? And so there's just many reasons why people have a hard time delegating. And so that's what we want to talk about today, is really mastering that delegation so that you don't feel like you're losing control or not being as efficient. So, all right, Troy, let's dive in.
All right. So like Trevor said, we're going to talk about why business owners struggle to delegate. And it really kind of comes down to this mindset of fear of losing control or quality, right? There's that belief, and Trevor mentioned it, of, no one can do it as well as I can. and that might be true. We've talked about that before. It might be true, but guess what? You can only do so much.
Yep.
And you can only grow your business so far without learning how to delegate to employees and to, contractors, whoever it might be. So if you truly want to grow your business, right, and continue to scale your business, you have to be able to delegate. So you got to be able to, overcome that fear and, that belief that only you can, that no one can do it better than you. And the other big fear that people have is the time investment paradox, which basically means that it feels faster to do it yourself than to train someone else to do it.
Yeah.
And I totally get that. I struggle with that all the time. I'll see a communication come in from, a client, and I'm like, oh, I can jump on that and take care of it in 5 minutes and it'll be done. Right. And the funny thing about it is, like, I'll go do that. And then I'll have one of my employees be like, hey, is there anything you need me to do? Like, my day's pretty open. And I'm thinking, if I hadn't jumped on that, I could have given it to them. But, I just was like, oh, I can get it done faster. It'll take them 10 minutes. I can do it in 5 minutes. Right. But that took 5 minutes out of my day that I can't focus on other things. And it gave, it could have been 10 minutes of their day and they could have done a great job doing it as well. So there's that mindset that we've really got to overcome.
Those 5 minutes add up, right? Like, it's so funny because I try to teach my children this, and it's associated with money, and especially my daughters, and sometimes even my wife. It's like, they're like, oh, it's just $5. Oh, it's just $10. Oh, it's just, so in perspective, it's just 10 minutes. It's just 5 minutes. But then it's like at the end of the month, it's like, holy crap, where'd all my money go? How did I spend $500? How did I, and it's like my kids, how did I spend hundreds of dollars? My wife, how did I spend thousands of dollars? Well, because every dollar, every $5, every $10, it all adds up. And it's just so easy to spend that. So think about that from your time perspective of like, just, oh, it's just 5 minutes. But how many times a day do you do that? Times how many days a week there is, times the month. And all of a sudden, you did so much. It's like, where'd all that time go? Well, it added up to days worth of work. So
yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. It really is. And it does add up. And you go, man, I worked 50 hours this week and I didn't get everything done I needed to get done. Yeah, because maybe 10 hours of that was 5 and 10 minute increments that you could have let someone else handle and you didn't. Right. And again, I am so bad at this. Like, this podcast is for me, basically. And so let's talk about it. What are the consequences of not delegating? One of the biggest ones is burnout and, being overwhelmed, right? You're working on a Saturday or even into a Sunday, and you're never getting time off. You're never getting time with your family because you're letting that, you're letting those things just add up and take up all your time, and you're pushing into that time that you should be spending with your family and other things. And what happens when you do that for too long? You get burned out, right? Yep. And then you blow something up in the business, right? Because you're like, I'm not doing this anymore. So that's one of the consequences. The other thing is business bottlenecks, right? Again, we talked about your growth is limited by your capacity. So if you can only, get X amount done in the week and you won't delegate it to someone else, well, guess what? You're not going to grow past that point in your business. You're never going to get to the next level because you are limited by your capacity. And the other thing is missed opportunities for scaling and innovation, right? So there are going to be opportunities where it's like, oh man, if I had only, and I felt this before in our business, if I had only delegated earlier and trained my employees earlier to be able to do these tasks, then I could have taken on this opportunity, which would have helped the business grow. But we're not ready for that opportunity because I didn't take the time to delegate and train my staff on those tasks to free me up to jump on the opportunity. So that's really important as well. And then the next thing is overcoming the fear of delegation, right? So this is literally shifting your mindset, not that delegation is an investment, not a loss, right? And I don't know about you, Trevor, but I felt this where it's like, I don't have time to teach them how to do this. I just have to keep doing this, right? Because if I take the time to teach them, I'm losing all of that time out of my busy schedule, which means instead of working 50 hours this week, I'm going to 60 hours this week, right? And, but you got to change that. You got to change that mindset of like, look, this is an investment in the future, right? It's going to pay off because I'm going to teach them how to do the job and do the job right. And I'm going to delegate this to you. So now I'm going to have more time in the future, right?
Yep, exactly.
And the other thing is like, understanding that mistakes are going to happen. They're not going to do it perfect. They're going to have to learn from their mistakes, just like you learned from your mistakes when you started doing it. But it's going to lead to long-term efficiency, right? And better employees. And then trusting your team by setting clear expectations. Right. That's the other thing, too, making sure that they know exactly what is expected of them. And last week, we actually talked about that, setting those expectations. Right. But setting those expectations and then trusting them to follow those expectations and meet those expectations. So it's really important. All right. So we're going to give you a simple system for how you can decide what to delegate. And this is called the 4 Ds of delegation. So the 4 Ds are do, delegate, defer, and delete. So the first one is do. Do are tasks that you should be handling in the business, right? Those are strategic decisions. These are high-end client relationships. These are, things that only you should be touching in the business. And those tasks, you're not going to delegate those. You're going to keep those tasks. The next one is delegate. So these are tasks that other people can handle with proper guidance. And that's really important, right? Making sure that you have proper guidance and that you take the time to teach them to do what they need to do, right? Because if you don't, then they're not going to be able to handle the task correctly. And then what's going to happen? You're going to be like, dang it, I've got to take this back because no one can do it right. Well, can they not do it right because you didn't teach them how to do it right?
Whose fault really is that?
Exactly. So these are things like, some ideas for this would be scheduling, customer service, basic operational stuff that can be handled by someone else. The next one is defer. And these are tasks that can be done later, right? These are maybe future projects. These are long-term goals. These are things that are not mission critical right now that you don't need to delegate it to someone else. You can defer this to, a later time when you have time to do that. And I do this all the time. It's like, okay, I really want to learn about this. And I think this knowledge is going to be great for our business in the future. but I'm going to defer this to a time when I'm not super busy, right? And a lot of times I will admit I will defer that to a weekend. And on a Saturday, when like the family's busy and they're off doing things and they don't need me, then I go, okay, great. Now I can pick up that task and I can research this and learn this and study this, right?
Yep.
But I'm deferring it out of my normal work schedule, right, to another time that I can, handle it in the future. And then the final thing is delete. So these are tasks that are unnecessary and don't really contribute to the growth of the business. And so some examples of that is micromanaging. You might be having a hard time letting people, like, delegating and not micromanaging them. And so what you end up doing is you spend just as much time as you would doing the task, like micromanaging the task and making sure that it gets done correctly. So train them well, and then you can delete that task out. Another one could be excessive meetings, right? I've seen this, especially in corporate America. It's like you have meetings to have meetings, and nothing's actually getting done because you're just meeting about getting things done, but nobody's actually doing anything.
You have meetings about meetings. Oh my goodness.
Yes. So, look at those excessive meetings. That's another place that you can say, you know what? We can delete this out. This can be handled with an email, right? Or a daily report that's done. Yeah. We don't have to have several meetings to go over these things. So those are the 4 D's of delegation that you really want to think about. Again, do, delegate, defer, and delete. Now, the next step is identifying what to delegate. So what you got to do is you got to make a list of tasks that you do either on a daily basis or a weekly basis. And then you need to ask yourself for each one of those tasks, am I the only person that can do this? Or can someone else be trained to do it? And if you're the only person, then that's on your do list. But if you can train someone else, and again, training could be an employee, training could be a contractor, right? A VA that you're working with, or a contractor, like you may be delegating the marketing of your business to a marketing agency who takes care of that. Or it might even be AI that we've talked about. I'm going to delegate this to AI. It's going to handle scheduling appointments for me, right? So that's another option there. And then what you want to do is you want to prioritize delegating those low value or repetitive tasks that you do not need to do. So that's how you determine what to delegate. Now, how to delegate effectively without losing control. This is the key, right? And we're going to give you 3 steps on how you can delegate successfully. So this is your delegation process. The first one is you need to assign tasks with clarity, meaning you need to clearly define the task, you need to define the deadline, and you need to let your employee know what the expected outcome is from that task. So that's the first thing, because if you do not, assign with clarity, then it's going to fall apart, right? It's not going to work. The next thing is equip and train, meaning that you need to provide the right tools, the right SOPs or standard operating procedures, and the right training to ensure that they're successful. If they don't have those things in place, then they will not be able to be successful, and you're going to end up taking that task back onto you. So, and again, SOPs, I know that's that word. It's SOPs, so boring. I don't want to have to put together documents that explain how to do things. It's faster for me to do the thing than to write the document to do the thing. But that's how you make sure that your team successfully does those things.
Well, yeah. And again, what you got to remember is when you spend time on this, like an SOP, you're doing it one time. and maybe there's a little bit of refining over time that, like, as you learn more and you get it better, that's fine. But like, you're doing it one time to then hopefully never have to deal with this again. It's going to free up so much time with having a good SOP that your team can learn from and utilize than you just continuing to do every single stinking task yourself,
Yeah, exactly.
Invest up front for long-term growth, right? And success.
Right. Exactly. It's just like what you would do with your money, right?
Yeah.
You invest up front so that you get that long-term growth. Well,
Yeah,
your
you don't start
business,
with 10 million bucks. You start with, $100,000 or whatever you got. Especially even just like you said the word invest. You were talking about investing in your business, but even investing, think about when you're investing.
Yeah.
You're like in your early 20s and it's like someone's like, you got to start your 401k or you got to get a Roth IRA. It's like, dude, yeah, I've got $1,000 to put in there. But by the end, when you do it right, you've got all this money to retire with. It's the exact same thing with your company. You want a well-oiled machine. And I always say this, and I say it to our employees all the time. The decisions we make today will affect us 6 to 8 months from now. And that's like, take that in your business, and even take it longer. The decisions you make today will be 6 to 8 months from now, but 6 to 8 months from now, you'll be so much better that in, 5 years, you're going to be phenomenal. 10 years, 20 years, that kind of thing. So
yeah.
invest up front.
Exactly. And the other thing too is, guess what? Your business is your money.
Yeah.
So you need, just like you invest in a 401k or anything like that to have a retirement in the end, that's your business, right? So if you're not investing in the business, meaning investing the time to be able to create these, the ability to delegate and grow the business, then your business will not grow, just like your 401k will not grow, right? So I love that. I love that analogy, Trevor. All right. So the next thing is trust but verify, meaning that you need to have check-ins at key milestones, but you need to avoid micromanaging, right? So if you spend as much time micromanaging to have to verify every single step of the process that your employee did it correctly, then you're not saving any time, right? So you got to have key milestones of when do I need to step in and take a look, right? Without me micromanaging this situation. And so that's really important, is putting those in place, because otherwise you're going to be like looking over your employee's shoulder. Did they do that? Did they send that email? Did they, text message? No, didn't do that. Right. Yeah. And you spend more time doing that than the work would have taken yourself. Right. So that's important.
Well, and then you're not doing what you should be doing, which is working on the business. The reason you got somebody in the first place.
Yes. All right. So common pitfalls to avoid. I love this one. Dumping versus delegating, right? Make sure that your employees understand why they're doing a task, not just what they're doing. And don't just dump it on them and be like, so if you just come in and be like, I'm so busy, I can't do this anymore. Brian, you're doing this all now, right?
Figure it out.
Exactly. And Brian's like, so what are my SOPs? Your SOP is figure it out.
Mainly, and most likely Brian doesn't even know what an SOP is. Okay.
Very true. So that's what we call dumping. When you just are like, I'm dumping this on you, you're on your own, you have to figure it out, right? That's not delegating, that's dumping.
Yeah, your employees are not a wastebasket, okay? They're not the trash can. You don't get to dump all of the things you don't want to do on them just by throwing it on them and saying, hope you figure it out.
Exactly. So the next one is, another common pitfall is lack of follow-up, right? So setting check-ins without hovering over them is really important, right? A lot of times we dump it, we walk away from it. We're like, I don't have to think about that anymore. We never check in to see if our employee or the contractor is being successful, right? And then the last one is not giving true ownership to them, meaning empowering the employees to make decisions within their role and what they can do. And I've watched Trevor do this more and more with our employees, because, and I think he mentioned in one of our last couple of podcasts, he says like an employee will come in, they're like, hey, like this client emailed in and this is what they said and and how should I respond? And Trevor's response is, how do you think you should respond? Right? And they go, well, I think this is what I would do. That's great. That's exactly what I would do. Now go do it. Right? When you do that with your employees, pretty soon they're not knocking on your door asking how to respond, because you've empowered them to, and you've shown them that they can make the right decision.
Yes.
Right. So that's how you get that true delegation, and you give up by giving up some of that ownership to them, right? And empowering them to do the job. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add, Trevor, before we hit the homework?
I mean, that last part I just love, because they start to believe in themselves. Because they're going to stop coming to you, because they're just going to say, they already know what you're going to say. Well, what would you do? Well, what would you do? Well, what would you do? You know, and it's like, they're like, I know you're going to say, what would I do? You know, yes. What would you do? You've done so good, you know? And so they start to believe in themselves, and they have that latitude to be able to handle whatever that situation truly is. And so that's just a key piece. If you are always hovering them and second guessing what they're doing and judging what they're doing and being negative with them, they will never gain confidence to be able to make those decisions for themselves. They will be paralyzed, movement paralyzed, decision paralyzed. You know, I can't do it. I don't know what to do without you telling me what to do, you know, but then you're getting pissed that they're coming to you. Well, yeah. It's your fault, suckers. All right. Well, that is perfect, guys. This was a great episode. We love you. We appreciate you. Let's hit the homework real quick, which is, I think you can already guess, but you're going to look at your business this week, and you're going to determine, you're going to make a list. What can I delegate? And what can I delegate well with, you know, training and, you know, empowering my employees so that they do a phenomenal job. And I can tell you this, our employees at this point in our business, 25 years in, they do a better job than I do. They do a better job than I do at a lot of things. And hallelujah for that, because it gives Troy and I the freedom to be able to work on the business. That is what we do, like doing this podcast, for instance. It allows us to do the things that, you know, like the podcast is giving back and sharing with our awesome listeners. We wouldn't have the time to do that if we didn't have amazing people behind us, but we wouldn't have amazing people behind us if we didn't teach them how to be amazing, right? So you're going to look at your business this week and figure out what can you delegate. And then you're going to, especially focusing on the things that will free up your time. Don't just delegate the trash crap. Okay. Like, I get it. Nobody wants to do that stuff, but, and that's fine. Have somebody do that, but don't just do the stuff that's actually going to make a difference in your business, because it frees up your time. And then start working on that. And remember, what you do today affects you 6 to 8 months from now. And that is true in marketing. That is true in decisions. That is true in, you know, organization. That is true in implementing new softwares and systems in your business. You've really got to start today, and it will affect you down the road, and you will become more effective down that road. And then you will have more capacity to do even more. So just take the first steps is what we're saying. Even if it's just 1 or 2 tasks, 1 or 2 things, do that. Get it implemented, get it delegated, and then you guys will be able to move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. And then guess what? 5 years from now, or a year from now, or 6 years from now, 10 years from now, you will be in such a better place than you are today. And you will be happy, happy, happy. All right. We, like I said, love you, appreciate you, and we will check you guys out on the next episode of SoTellUs Time.